What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be doing the ADC guide real quick. Gonna go through the builds on each ADC and kind of why you build them, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more insight on how to build and why you build certain things on specific characters. Again, this is used on Omida City. I'll have a link. This website that I'm using right now to kind of show these off is Omida City. I will have a link to that down in the description. If you want to look at, making your own build or something like that, or see numbers, this website does allow you to actually see the numbers when you put them in, which can be really nice if you do want that. So shout out to Omida City. But anyways, I'm just gonna get straight into it and start with Drongo. Drongo, typically, you're gonna go Liberator as your crest. You benefit from attack speed because you get more shots of your E off and things like that, so it makes it really valuable. You also get the cleanse, which is really nice and allows him to be a little bit safer as an ADC. Then you typically go into Vanquisher. Drongo benefits a lot from Vanquisher due to the fact that his passive gets extra dot damage when you have crit chance. And then if they get below a certain threshold, you do execute them, even if it's only the dot damage that hits them for 3 damage or something like that. It allows you to just finish people off really quickly. Second item you're going to typically go in most games is Sky Splitter. You're going to see this really common on most characters. Sky Splitter is your tank killing item, and you do kind of need it. Typically, when you finish this item, it feels really nice. You start being able to actually hit the front line and stuff like that. And as an ADC, you should always be looking to go front to back in most situations. And this kind of allows you to do that and just hit tanks. Everybody's building HP other than maybe the other ADC. But mid laners, they're building a lot of Tainted right now, which has HP on it. Junglers are very bruiser heavy, unless you're against like a Kalari or a Fang Mao, in which case they still might even have like a Tainted Blade. Solo laners very tanky. Supports are building HP items when they build like Dynamo and stuff like that. So you get a lot of value from Sky Splitter, and allows you to actually kill the front line, which is kind of your job as an ADC in most games. Third, you're going to get your penetration option, which is Demolisher. You're going to go this on pretty much everybody. It just gives you extra crit chance and then a little bit more damage to heroes that are higher HP than you, which basically means, again, the tanks, which is your job to kill as an ADC for the most part. It also gives you the percent pen that you need, which is really valuable, and then some extra crit chance, which synergizes with the Vanquisher. And then the last 2 slots actually don't matter nearly as much as the first 3. I would say the first 3 items are probably the most important on any ADC, but typically the way you're going to finish a build is Tainted Rounds. The stats on this item are just absolutely nuts. 30% attack speed, the crit chance is really nice, the power is like kind of meh, but the passive is really, really strong. The passive actually increases your damage significantly, and then also applies anti-heal, which is really nice. A lot of people don't respect the secondary passive of it doing damage, which is actually kind of significant. There are times where I'll be hitting people and it does, 50 to 80 damage extra on my auto attacks, which feels really nice. And then because of the attack speed for a character like Drongo, you benefit a lot just due to the fact, again, you get more rad rounds and things like that. So Tainted ends up being really strong. To finish, depending on what you want, if you want a little bit more power and just like kill potential, you can definitely finish with an Imperator. I tend to like to go Dust Devil a lot of the time. It gives you a little bit more safety due to the movement speed that you get. It's very easy to stack. You only need 3 auto attacks because you're going to crit 100% of the time when you build it 4th item, since you already have 75% crit, and then this gives you another 25. It also gives you a little bit more attack speed, which can allow you to burst people down and get more Sky Splitter procs, things like that, more Tainted procs. However, if you want a little bit more burst, you can definitely go Imperator, and either one is probably fine in the 5th slot. It really doesn't matter that much. The key part of most of the ADC builds are the Sky Splitter and the Demolisher for the most part, and then depending on which character you're playing, you can go Lightning Hawk or Stormbreaker or Vanquisher. All 3 are valuable in the 1st slot. Moving along, we are going to go to Kira. She is the next. Kira is pretty much the exact same thing. You're going literally the exact same build. There's not much difference. The only thing I would say that you could do on Kira if you really want to is you can actually go Lightning Hawk, because she gets a little bit more value than Vanquisher sometimes. If you're kind of winning the lane and you're kind of think you can start running people down, you can dash in, and then your Lightning Hawk allows you to slow, and then you can keep walking at people, which can be really nice. This is something that you can do. Either one is fine, though. It doesn't really matter that much. It's just personal preference. I tend to prefer the Vanquisher. I think it feels a little bit more consistent, and I really like the power spikes on it, whereas I think the Lightning Hawk is a little bit weaker in the early game. until you actually can run people down. It is a little bit worse at killing, the Timmies, for example. If you're against a Timmy two shoes and you think you can just start snowball in the lane, definitely get a Lightning Hawk. It'll definitely allow you to run them down a lot easier. And then you finish the same build with either Tainted Rounds or Imperator in Dust Devil. Any combination of the three is fine. Tainted Rounds is really strong. I would say it's probably the strongest of the three. And then Imperator and Dust Devil in the final two slots. Final slot. Either one is fine though. Then we have Murdock. Murdock, you kind of have two different options. You have it's the same build for the most part. You go Liberator, Sky Splitter, Demolisher. There's a reason you build these items. You just kind of need them. Cleanse is really strong. You can actually go Pacifier if you want to, but I'm not going to recommend it just due to the fact that I think you have to have kind of a higher understanding of what you're going against and what's happening in the game. If you don't know what people do, or you're curious, I would just say go Liberator. If you're not sure what to build, always go Liberator. You can't go wrong with it, really. Whereas Pacifier can get a lot of value, you can also get punished really heavily for not having the cleanse. So I would not recommend people go Pacifier, and I would just say go Liberator in pretty much every game, just so that you don't have to worry about getting CC'd and then dying immediately. But on Murdock, Lightning Hawk is really strong just due to the fact that he can run you down with his E. The slow combined with his E allows you to just kind of snowball the lane, especially with the ranged auto attack from his passive. In the percent pen that you get from it can really allow you to just walk people down, especially tanks and things like that. Sky Splitter and Demolisher, we already talked about. They're just your tank killing items. You need them. Every build needs these pretty much. These two are kind of non-negotiable. If you want to kill frontline, you have to build these. And a lot of the game right now is a lot of frontline. You're seeing a lot of rampages and jungles, a lot of Richters, things like that, steals being played. Even Kwong, like a character like Kwong is very tanky, or somebody that builds a lot of HP like Grux. He builds the Bone Saw or the Basilisk. They have a lot of HP on them, and these are your HP shred items and then your percent pen item, which also allows you to do extra damage to people that have more HP than you. Tainted Rounds, again, a really strong item. It allows you to do more damage, anti-heal, just procs on every auto attack. Attack speed is always nice on ADCs. With Murdock specifically, due to the fact that his ultimate is global, if you want to play outside the lane and you want to just look for snipes and try to get like a little bit of a snowball, you can definitely go Vanquisher first, and the little execute actually allows you to get a lot more snipes off and a lot more damage in the early game. Either one is fine though, it depends. I would say if you're playing for the lane, Lightning Hawk's probably a little better. If you're playing outside of the lane where you're looking for snipes and things like that, Vanquisher is probably a little bit stronger in most games. But either one is fine. Last item, I almost always go Dust Devil on Murdock. Due to the fact that his E and his traps, you can utilize the utility of the CC from the traps as well as the pushback and the E that Murdock already has inherent movement speed. You can get a lot of value from the movement speed from Dust Devil as opposed to somebody like Drongo who doesn't have any innate movement speed or anything like that. So I think Dust Devil is usually always my go-to. You can still go Imperator if you want to. It does make your autos hit a little bit harder, but again, you use a little bit of that utility and then you also don't get the attack speed, whereas Murdock can really benefit from that. The more auto attacks you hit, the more passive shots that you're getting, the more damage you're getting. One thing that you could also go if you really want to late game, you can actually get Onyxian Quiver. This is probably the only character in the game I would probably ever build this on. It is very easy to proc your passive and gives you a lot of benefits on Murdock as the last item. A lot of attack speed, the crit gives you 100%, and it just allows you to proc item effects and things like that really nicely. Murdock is probably the only character I would ever even consider building this on, but it is an okay 5th item, especially if you're snowballing the game and you're trying to just end really fast. It allows you to kill objectives really quickly on Murdock just due to the fact that his passive shreds the protections, and then he gets to, kind of tee off with the extra damage from Onyxian on the objective. So this is probably the only character I'd ever build this on. I think it's just worth mentioning in case you are thinking about building it. You can definitely build it on Murdock specifically if you're like, maybe that's a fun item and I want to go it. That's the character to do it. Next up, we have Revenant, probably the only character that actually has a different build, and the only reason his build is different is because you can't really build Sky Splitter due to the fact that you don't really benefit that much from attack speed. So typically, you're going to go Assassin Crest, which means you're either going to go Witch Doctor if you need a cleanse. If you don't think you need a cleanse, and you think you can kind of snowball the game, maybe you're ahead in the lane, you got some kills, you can go Ortis instead. I would typically recommend Witch Doctor just because it's a little bit more consistent. But again, if you got a couple kills in the early game and you want to kind of try to snowball the lane, you can definitely get an Ortis. To start, you pretty much always go Vanquisher. Vanquisher just allows you to start one-tapping people pretty much with your combo. If you get a guaranteed crit on your 4th shot, you get extra power from the crit chance, and then you can just ult somebody. hit a combo of auto attacks, hit your Q, and then they kind of die to the Vanquisher since you can't miss the Q. Very, very strong item on Revenant. He also has a lot of damage on the 4-shot due to the fact that it does missing HP damage. So if somebody's like half HP and you hit them with that auto attack, you get that bonus damage due to them being half HP, and that a lot of the time can put them in the Vanquisher threshold, which makes that 4-shot even more deadly than it already is. Second item, you go straight into the Demolisher. The reason you do this is so that you can kill tanks, and then also you get crit and you don't benefit from the attack speed, so you kind of just go straight into your item. Typically on Revenant, you're kind of playing for 3 items because that's where your biggest power spikes are. As soon as you finish Demolisher, you can just start running at people, and especially tanks. If you catch somebody off guard, you can definitely just kill them. So this is typically how you go on Revenant. And then third item, you just get straight into Imperator. Imperator, again, another one, a fantastic power spike for Revenant. He already gets an insane amount of power from his passive, getting 75% crit chance on this item. And then he also gets a little bit more damage on the guaranteed crits that he already gets. And it just allows you to really just one-shot somebody. As soon as you get to this point in the game, you can kind of just third, fourth shot somebody, pressure a Q, and they die. And it's very simple, very easy, not too difficult. I do think he's a little bit weak right now. If you get behind, it's really hard to kind of get back into the game. But if you can manage to get to this point in the game without being super far behind, you might just be able to 1v5 the enemy team, provided you don't get insta-killed in the fight by like an enemy ADC or something. Fourth item, we go to Terminus. Revenant's probably one of the only characters I would ever recommend building lifesteal on right now. Typically, the crests that you get, whether that be Witchstalker or Liberator or whatever, they all have innate lifesteal on them, other than Ortis. So usually that's enough lifesteal in most games. So you generally don't build it. It's not a super fantastically strong item, but on Revenant it can be really nice just due to the fact that you get extra benefits from the crit chance, and then you do have the big hitting auto attack, so you actually get a significant amount of lifesteal, especially in a trade. Like sometimes you'll be hitting somebody and they're half HP, you hit that 4-shot on them, you hit an easy like 500 health heal. Sometimes I've had some crazy heals with Terminus. It also allows you to do objectives a lot easier, which can be really nice, especially in the late game if you're doing like a primal or something like that. Being able to tank it can be really nice. Last item really doesn't matter that much on Revenant. You're not really like a 5-item Andy, unfortunately. You don't really need anything else. This is kind of like the best. You can go Dust Devil, it's okay. Late game, this is probably the best item that I go most of the time. It just gives you a little bit of attack speed, which can feel nice, so you get a little bit more reloads in the late game, and then that 4th shot will have the extra bonus power due to the fact that you get a little bit of bonus power once you get 6 stacks, which you get 2 per crit. If you're guaranteed to crit the first 3 crits, then that 4th crit will have that extra enhanced power on it, which will feel really nice. And then your Q also gets that extra power, and then you can kind of walk around with the movement speed and kind of utilize that a little bit more. Alternatively, you could get something like a Mesmer. Mesmer is also a fantastic item on Revenant just due to the fact that you kind of play as like an assassin. So you're kind of looking at that, like play a weird angle and get into the enemy backline. Mesmer allows you to 1v1 a little bit better, especially if you get on like a mage or something like that. You kind of block an ability, or if the enemy jungler tries to go on you, you have a little bit of an escape option due to the fact that you won't get immediately CC'd if you're against like a rampage or something and he hits you with a random rock. So this is typically the Revenant build that I go. I do not think he's very good right now, but if you are going to play him, this is what I would recommend building on him. Next up, we have Sparrow. Sparrow, very similar to a lot of these other characters. The only difference is that she goes Stormbreaker. She is an attack speed heavy character. She benefits the most from attack speed, and it's very easy for her to farm with this. It allows you to kind of run people down. It gives you pressure in the lane. You can actually clear. She has a lot of good clear potential, and Stormbreaker just enhances that. It also gives you chain zaps off your ultimate, so when you ult, you're hitting everybody, and then you start chain zapping everybody, and you get an insane amount of DPS. Second and third, you're going the Sky Splitter and the Demolisher again, very similar to some of these other ADCs. It just allows you to straight up obliterate people. Once you get these 3 items in the game, you pretty much win if you get to this point on Sparrow without dying immediately. Alternatively, you can also go Eviscerator. I probably wouldn't recommend it if you're not confident in ADC, but if you are confident in your positioning and you don't mind dying occasionally, because you are going to die without Liberator, you can go Eviscerator, and that absolutely allows you to demolish tanks or anybody else that you might need to kill. Again, I don't really recommend it for a new player, but if you are confident in playing Sparrow and you're confident in your positioning as an ADC, it is a very good item. And then fourth, you get the Tainted Rounds. Again, this is an insane power spike at this point in the game. You will just start one-shotting people like this. As soon as you get Tainted Rounds, you can actually 1v5. very easily. It's very like often you'll kind of get to this point in the game and then you just realize like an insane damage increase and you just start killing everybody. A Sparrow at this point in the game is very scary. If you catch a Sparrow at 4 items, may God help you, or you better hope you have some CC on your team or something like you're a steal. But this is kind of the Sparrow build, and the last 2 items, again, you can go Dust Devil or Imperator. I tend to go Imperator. I think you get more value most of the time. But Dust Devil can be really nice if you are kiting some ADCs. Maybe you're against like a Greystone or something that wants to walk at you with W key. The extra movement speed from Dust Devil can make a big difference, especially since you already get a little bit from your ultimate. But if you're looking for just raw damage, I generally tend to go Imperator, and I think it's a little bit better. I don't think you really need the passive from Dust Devil. I don't think you get as much benefit in most situations, but there are games where it can be really nice, specifically against characters like Greystone who really want to walk at you. Next up, we have Twin Blast. Twin Blast is very similar to Sparrow. He kind of has 2 builds, actually. I'll talk about both of them, but for like starters, we're just going to go with basically the Sparrow build. The only difference is you don't go Imperator, you go Dust Devil. You use Dust Devil a lot better than Sparrow, and you don't get as much benefit from Imperator due to the fact that your crits only do half damage anyways, since you shoot 2 auto attacks, so you don't really get as much benefit from them. You do benefit a lot from attack speed, and you can definitely snowball a lane like this. You can farm very fast with Stormbreaker, you can stack it very quickly. He's probably the fastest farming character in the game. If you are against a heavy tank composition, such as like a Rampage or a Richter, I would highly recommend building like this. But if you're against a little bit of a squishier comp, or you want something a little bit more fun, you can go the power build, which is a little bit more fun, but might not be as good at killing tanks specifically, which is why you generally only see it if you're against a little bit more of a squishy comp. Maybe you're against like a Decker support or like a Bellica, somebody that's a little bit more squishy, and then they might have like a Bruiser in the offlane or something like a Grux, where you don't have to worry about having as much tank killing potential, which the attack speed build gives you. So typically the way you are going to build the ADC build, where you go full pen, is you get, where is it, Mind Razor, there it is. You get Mind Razor to start. This allows you to farm, it allows you to clear. You can actually start the Chalice and then go straight into your second item, which can be really nice. It's situational, you don't have to, but you can. Typically, I see good ADCs skipping the item and just starting with the tier 2, so you get the tier 2 Chalice like this, then you finish your second item, which is usually a Painweaver. You can also go Infernum in the second slot, either one is good. I think Painweaver is a little bit more consistent, but Infernum did just get buffed, and it does feel really nice. It makes your ult hit very hard, but Painweaver is a little bit more consistent on most abilities. Then I see them going to a pen option. Demolisher, if you're against more HP heavy characters, so again, if you're against like a Grux or something like that that's building HP, but they aren't super tanky, you can get a lot of value out of Demolisher. Alternatively, you can get Perforator if you want to be a little bit more of like an alt bot and kind of just keep spamming your ultimate on people and your abilities, since it gives you a little bit of haste. Then you're going to look at the Infernum. Whatever you didn't get, whether it's Painweaver or Infernum, you end up finishing. And then the last item you get is Mutilator. The reason you get Mutilator is it gives you great cooldown. Then it also gives you a little bit of max HP and some lifesteal. Due to the fact that it gives you Omnivamp as opposed to regular lifesteal, you actually benefit from the Omnivamp a lot more because your abilities will heal. In this build is just about spamming your abilities. That's pretty much how you build it. You can finish the Mind Razor after your third item, whether that's Perforator or Demolisher. It's typically when you finish it. You can also just go straight into the Mind Razor if you want to be a little bit more farm oriented. It does allow you to start clearing camps as soon as you finish it, as opposed to waiting until you end up getting like 2 or 3 items. You could start clearing camps at 1 item. You typically go Ortis with this build. You kind of want to prop Ortis when you get kills, or if you're trying to look to poke somebody down right before a fight, you can pop Ortis, throw your ult at them, and you might actually just one-shot them. I've had many situations where I'm like 3-4 items in, I catch the enemy mid laner in the mid lane, he has nowhere to run, I pop Ortis, I throw a grenade, and then I ult, and he just dies straight up to the ultimate in the grenade. And it's very common, and it happens occasionally, and if you do see yourself in that kind of situation, that's kind of where you want to use it. You can also use it as a little bit of mobility, since it does give you some attack speed combined with the Painweaver, movement speed, not attack speed, combined with the Painweaver movement speed. The next character we were going to talk about is Wraith. I already talked about him in my mid video, so I'm not going to talk too much about him. I'm just going to quickly go over the build. If you really want like an explanation on what you build and why you build it, you can go watch that video, or a little bit more of an in-depth one. This one's just going to be like a quick, this is kind of what you build guide on him. So typically you go Chalice, and then you go Vanquisher, you finish the Vanquisher. After you finish the Vanquisher, you go Mind Razor. The reason being, you can start clearing camps once you get this point, and you kind of need some pushing power on the wave at this point, so you can start doing Fang Tooth and things like that. You go Demolisher. It gives you extra crit chance. It combines with the Vanquisher, allowing you to get very easy one-shot combinations. And then it also allows you to kill tanks. Fourth, you go Omen. It allows you to just reset your combination. You kind of Q, right click, auto attack, right click, and then you can Q again. You can sometimes even Q before the second right click, so you can Q, right click, auto attack, then Q again, then right click 2 more times. And if you auto cancel in between that, you can kind of just one shot people a lot of the time. Last item you get is Mesmer or Infernum. If you want a little bit more of a defensive option, or if they have some, long range stuns, maybe like a Rampage Rock or something like that, you do kind of play like a little bit of an assassin. Very similar to Revenant, so you're kind of in the back line, or you're on the side of a fight. So Mesmer kind of just stops you from getting gone on, really. If you're looking for a little bit more of a poke and like you're kind of playing more in your own back line, where you want just a little bit more DPS, you can go Infernum. It procs on the 3, so you don't really have to worry about too much. You kind of Q, right click, and that's it. And as soon as if you hit the person that you hit with your Q, that counts as 3 damage ticks because you get the hit from the Q. You get the second % health damage from the Q when you hit the right click, so that's 2 hits of damage just from the Q alone. And then you hit the right click, which is 3. That procs your Infernum, and it allows you to get a little bit of extra burst. The other benefit to Infernum is that it also procs your Vanquisher. So if you get somebody low enough, and the burn from Infernum actually puts them in the execute threshold of the Vanquisher, they will die. Typically with this build you go Ortis. You can go Witchstalker if you're against super heavy CC, but the way you play Wraith, you should probably be positioning in a way that you don't really need it. But sometimes you do, just in case you can get it. Typically though, you go Ortis and you just try to use that to snowball. If you get a couple kills with Ortis early and you get a few stacks, he can absolutely just 1v9 a game very easily. He's a very strong character. I would highly recommend picking him up if you have not been playing him. But that's all for this video. I appreciate everybody watching. Sorry to say that a lot of people have requested the jungle one. Unfortunately, I just don't have the time to really record that one. Since there's a lot more characters in jungle, I can't really do it as quickly. I'll hopefully have that tomorrow, but hopefully ADCs will suffice for now. Not going to say that ADCs don't need it more, because I typically... When somebody's losing me a game, typically it's my ADC, and typically he's not building optimally. So hopefully this is a little bit helpful, and they tend to get it a little bit more. But thank you everybody for watching. I hope everybody has a good rest of their day, and yeah, catch you in the next one.